Say yes to new beginnings.
Yes.
Say yes to new beginnings.
Yes.
Say yes to
2024 is running very, very fast. By next week, we'll be entering the third month. That's talking about March. What do you think people can still do to be able to maximize the potential of 2024?
Well, the year is still very young, and it's never too late to do the right thing. Like I've always said, whenever you wake up, that's when your morning starts. So if you wake up by 1 a.m. is good morning, 4 a.m. is good morning, 9 a.m. is good morning, 11 a.m. is good morning. Even if you wake up by 1 p.m., you'll see good morning. For you say afternoon, don't reach you. So whenever you wake up, that's when your morning starts. So the year is still young. Even if you came into the year without a plan, even if you came into the year without a goal, you still have enough time to sit down, plan, set goals, and then begin to move towards them, because even if you get pregnant next month, you'll still deliver this year. So because the gestation period for a pregnancy is 9 months. So it all depends on what you want to do. The year, for those that understand the way economics work, you know that in the world that we live in, life is cyclical. 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine, 7 years of plenty. So there will always be seasons of plenty and seasons of famine. And with the last administration from 2014, when we prepared for the last administration, to 2015, when the last administration came in, and the 8 years, within those 8 years, we had recession like 4 times. We're in and out of recession consistently. And if you really understand what the last administration did, you realize that they took Nigeria like 30, 35 years backwards. So we're actually, it's as if we are back in the 80s or the early 90s now. So, and with this new administration now, people are beginning to see some of the effects of the last administration, and everyone should just be ready to do what they can do to navigate the economic climate that we have all found ourselves.
Okay. Now, talking about navigating where we have found ourselves, what are some of the things that we need to do to be able to navigate what is currently going on in our country? Okay,
well, I was in a board meeting earlier today where I presided over a board meeting as the board chairman, and I was still telling the company that as leaders and as people that are custodians of investors' funds, custodian of a group of company, we need to know that the reality is the fact that we are in a turbulence. We are in an economic crisis, and we need to know how to go through that crisis and ensure that we sail the ship and then we pilot the plane to land safely. So the first thing that people should do is, number one, don't be confused. Don't be confused. It is not what happens to you, it is what happens in you that determines how you end. Many times when people are in a crisis like this, the major thing that happens is that people get confused, they get depressed, they get disillusioned, and they can't think straight. If you're afraid as a student and the teacher comes into the class, because you are afraid, when they say, "What is your name? What's your name?" my name is 1 + 1, 11. Even though you know 1 + 1 is 2, you will say 11, or you can't even answer any why, because you are afraid, you are perplexed, you are confused. So the first thing I will tell anybody is be at peace. Don't be confused, don't be perplexed, because you need your sanity to be able to navigate the year, to be able to navigate the season. When you are confused, when you are depressed, when you are in despair, you cannot think straight, and then there is bad news everywhere. But as long as the bad news is outside, it's okay. If the bad news now enters you and you internalize it, it will now become pessimism. It will become depression. And before you know it, you see what we're having now, suicide rate is already increasing, because as long as the ship is on the water, it will survive. But when the water enters the ship, it will sink. So that's the first thing. Number two will be to keep your dream and your focus alive. Whatever dream you have, whatever desire you have, keep it alive. As long as you stay the course, tough times never last, but tough people do. So number one is to be at peace. Don't lose your sanity. Number two is stay focused on what your goal is. Slow and steady, you will get there. Like we have always said, which we have revived now or revised. The journey of 1,000 miles, they say, begins with a step. But now we say the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step that is taken. Until you take the step, the journey has not begun. So just keep going, because if you look at, permit me to go into the Bible, when God told Noah to bring the people, the animals into the ark 2 by 2, that there was going to be rain, there was going to be crisis, there was going to be turbulence. Noah was able to get the animals into the ark, but you realize that the lion got there, the cheetah got there, the leopard got there, the tiger got in there, but the snail and the tortoise also made it. And the reason why the snail and tortoise made it is because they refused to stop moving. As long as you stick your head out of your covering and out of your shell and you continue to move, you will get there. And the same water that destroyed people was the same water that lifted up the ark of Noah, because crisis creates opportunities. So in the midst of, oh, there's no money, this and that, people are still making money. So crisis creates opportunities. Don't always be at that point where you only see the bad news. Always see the opportunity in the midst of the crisis. And then we go back to the age-long truth that anyone that knows will know what to do with it. And that truth is principles are universal. Principles are universal. And the application of those principles are personal, contextual, and geographical. The principles that makes for wealth creation is the same anywhere in the world. The principles that makes for navigating economic terrain like this is the same anywhere in the world. Nigeria is not the only one going through crisis, because many times we like to paint Nigeria in a very bad brush. Many of us are not patriotic and we are not positive about our nation, so we only talk about bad things about Nigeria. Right now, the UK is in recession. People have been suffering in UK. People are suffering. China and Japan, they are all in recession right now. Then if you look at Canada, people are suffering all over. There is high cost, energy cost is high, inflation is high. There's so much crisis going on everywhere. I was telling someone recently, I think it was last week, that we lost an icon in the country about 2 weeks ago. He died in a helicopter crash in America. And in the report that they gave, they said that it would take 1 to 2 years for the reports to come out, for them to know what really happened. And I was telling someone that if it is Nigeria that the guy died, and they say it will take 1 to 2 years, they will have come up with all kinds of stories. They will say, how will it take 2 years? How will it take 2 years? They are trying to hide something. But now, America said it will take 1 to 2 years. Have you seen any blog or anybody or any influencer say anything against that? But if it's Nigeria, everybody will be looking for clickbait. They'll be looking for ways to just insult the country. Look, you may have problem with politicians, but please don't have problem with Nigeria. Nigeria is not your problem. Nigeria is one of the greatest nations in this world with the wrong people leading us. So don't now mix up bad leadership with a bad nation. Nigeria is not a bad nation. We are bad leaders, but Nigeria is one of the best nations in the world, and we should all continue to understand that. So the principles that governs for wealth creation are the same. So right now, if you are going to navigate any economic terrain, the principle is reduce your expenditure and increase your income. That's all. It's not anything. Those are the only two things. Every other thing is a derivative of those two things. Number one, reduce your expenditure. Every individual, every family, every organization on earth have all manner of expenditures that can be removed or that can be reduced. And that's actually one of my own USP. No matter how poor you think you are, one of the things I do, I have a skill in cost reduction, strategy for organizations, and I'm able to help individuals, families, and organizations see where they can cut costs without even knowing that they are losing money. So number one is to reduce your expenditure. Number two is increase your income. Think of what else you can do to bring in extra income just to be able to help yourself. And once you're able to do these two with what I've said, then you're on the way forward.